What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Blazers Edge podcast. I am your current host. Sure, we'll go with that. Temporary host, primary question asker. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. But with my former co-host of 4 years, Terrible on Biggs, taking a leave from the podcast, I'm rotating through some Blazers Edge friendlies, I guess we'll call them. And you guys should all know are one of the editors at Blazers Edge and one of our leading draft guys, Steve Dewald. Steve, thanks for joining us, man.
Big shoes to fill, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, Team Mom, you get to be more me right now, so the shoes are a lot smaller. So I have to sit here and try to do the host thing, which it's actually a lot harder than you think it is. So I decided I was going to do the icebreaker with you with a not in a question, it was a statement I put out on Twitter earlier. Lettuce does not belong on tacos. Your thoughts?
No, I'm a cabbage guy, so I agree with you. So.
Lettuce belongs in a salad. That's it. There's no place where lettuce is superior to anything else than in a salad. And even then, you can go spinach, you can go kale, you can go arugula. It's like your 12th man.
Yep.
This is a 12th man. It's a reliable 12th man.
I'll even go. I get the shredded cabbage with the carrot in it too. I just leave the carrot in. I mean, come on.
Literally. That's the thing. I've had people fire back with, it belongs on tacos. What about Taco Bell? And I'm just like, God, I have to remember that I'm actually, as much as I live in Oregon, I'm not technically an Oregonian. I'm from Southern California, where we have real tacos. Yes, I'm talking to all of you, and I hope you're very frustrated with my take right now, and you should be ashamed. Take the dirty, filthy, wet, nasty, tasteless lettuce off your tacos. Listen, I get you if you're cilantro. If you're one of those people where cilantro tastes like soap, I get you. But you have other options, right? You have onions, you have peppers, you have cabbage, like you said, radish. There's so many other things you can go with. You could even go spinach, and I wouldn't be mad at you. I would just be like, that's a little different, but whatever. It's a little, I guess, like a Greek flavor. I guess that becomes less taco and more
Euro.
But yeah. Even then, all right, I can go with that. I'll even go so far as to say that lettuce is a worse taco topping than ketchup, and ketchup is disgusting on a taco.
That's a bridge too far. I can't do ketchup.
Come on, man. Just because LeBron did it doesn't mean
you
do it.
I grew up on white people tacos in Eastern Oregon, so I had a lot of lettuce. But we never put ketchup on our tacos.
Listen, that's the thing is I can excuse the fact that a lot of people in the Northwest have gringo tacos. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the thing. But when we're talking making real tacos, lettuce is completely and totally unacceptable. Just flat out. No ifs, ands, buts about it. And then everybody out there who thinks otherwise, guess what? There are people who think that lettuce doesn't belong on tacos, and then there are people who are wrong. So you can be in one group or the other.
Yeah.
With that, so we're doing this on Sunday night, and I guess what's the date now? 24th. I lose track of these. What do we date?
Yep, yeah, it's
5 of the
is it even
whatever?
Is it even the weekend?
I know. It all blends together. I just wake up. I'm like, am I supposed to go to work today? I think I am. Maybe. Shrug. But unless something happens that's just wildly out of place, the NBA season is going to resume here probably in 60-ish days. 45 if we're talking about guys coming back and getting ready and stuff like that. What's your primary thought on the entirety of it, and then we'll kind of work through it step by step?
I think it just really, Dave touched on it a little bit this week on the site, but it's just kind of a necessary evil, and I think we should just call it what it is. This is not there's no perfect way to do this. There's no completely safe way to do this, no matter the ways you approach it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is this league and the players, especially the top tier players, are facing, when their salaries are tied directly to the cap, they're facing a financial crunch that we've never seen. This is way different than just a lockout or a labor dispute. This is something the league has never been able to prepare for. And there just has to be some form of basketball. And if there's not, you're looking at a problem that could last up to 5 years. This isn't just like a simple one-off. You're talking about cap damage that lasts 5-6 years. Now, granted, that's on one side, that's still sports. And then on the other, you're talking about player safety, the safety of coaches, people who are over 50 in this league that will be inside the bubble that is proposed. So those are the issues that we're going to have to evaluate.
So I'm with you in the sense of like the safety obviously is primary, but the money implications for, let me just kind of put it in dollar and cents for folks. I know people like, well, they have so much money to begin with, that it's a scale. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing. When 25% of your salary is just poof, and you planned on it being there, I don't care how much money you had. You probably have investments, you probably have things that you're working on. And if all of a sudden 25% of your salary is gone, and we're talking about the immediacy of this year, that alone is enough for you to go, I'm sorry, what? Just kind of perk up and be like, we need to figure out something here. Then you talk about the implications. We're talking, like you mentioned, like 5 years out. And when we saw what happened in 2016 with a cap spike, now think of the inverse of that, where you could see a massive slash to kind of straighten things out and righten the ship. And when you're looking at it from that sense, and this isn't to discount the safety or the what is, quote unquote, right. But when you're looking at it from that standpoint, especially a bunch of dudes who are 21 to 28 years old, who have a different outlook on life, who have been treated and looked at as invincible pretty much their entire lives, I can be like, yeah, no, I get it. I don't have to say that I agree or I don't agree, but I at least understand where they're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, also you're talking about a 25% cut in professional athletes work differently than most of us in most of our careers. We are all working to our most profitable years. Most likely our most profitable years are going to be later in our lives. These guys they have to maximize their earning right now. And when you're taking a 25% cut, and I mean, if you're a guy on, a minimum contract, you take that 25% off and you're a guy who might only be in the league for 3 years. I mean, that's devastating for
that impact 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like the whole idea of your money working for you, like the exponential factor that hits. And I know that this whole like crying over spilled milk when we're talking about millionaires being cut millions, it matters. It matters to these dudes. I mean, like it's the whole thing. You and I have talked about this a million times. You and I are both on the same boat in this. We are both team get the bag. It is incumbent on the player to get as much money as they can when they can get it. It's up to ownership and general managers and such to manage the financial responsibilities of an organization. It is not the player's job ever, ever.
Yeah.
So if their union has come together and they accept the proposal, then go with God. That's kind of where I'm sitting on it, right?
And yeah, I just want to be very clear. Like, this is not me advocating that this is the best and safest way to do it. But these people have to, I mean, their union, their league, their representatives have to do what's best for them and their clients. And if this is what they decided it's on and there's a vote, that's what you need to do. But also, the thing that does concern me is not necessarily the players, but it's their families if they're allowed into the bubble.
Yeah.
And then it's also the coaches or staff members that are, in an at-risk range. Like, those are the people that they're going to have to be extra careful about.
And I mean, we can tie that back. How old is Terry Stotts?
He's mid-60s.
Yeah. I believe he's 62, if I'm not mistaken.
So, give him a couple more years.
But no, I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, we don't know about any underlying health conditions. And Coach Stotts, so if you're hearing this, I hope you're doing well. We love you. We love us some Terry. So, but like, that's something you have to remember. You look around the organization, and I mean, there's people who've been with the organization. How old is Jeff Clark? I feel like Jeff Clark has been the trainer of the Blazers my entire life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, kind of talking sideways right now, but we love you, Jeff. But like, what position are they being put in? And that's not a question that I'm prepared to answer, nor am I going to try to take that on, because I don't have the answers to that. I don't think anybody really does, but there are certainly people out there who have better answers than I do, right?
Yeah, and I think this league has always been one who has not shied away from innovation. And I think whatever they have to do, as far as if it's coaching away from the court, and you have a screen or a surface set up there that is giving real-time instruction, like, that's something that the league should look into.
Shout out Microsoft Surface.
Well, hey, I believe they are they the sponsor?
They are the official. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to be on brand. We're trying to get sponsored.
But yeah, I mean, I always, have you seen that I think it's Track Phone. I'm sitting here just dropping company names like for free right now. I need to learn. But have you seen that commercial where that dude's like rolling around in the big box? It's a video screen of him like on the street. It's like a giant Track Phone. It's like a video screen of him talking to people on the street. I feel like we can get one of those for Coach Stotts. That way the officials can still get the face when he's irritated with them. But let's kind of get into the meat of this because Shams had got a hold of the GM survey that was sent out on Friday. And there are a litany of questions that went out to GMs, and they want to know, and I think this is the more formal and official version of the thumbs up, thumb down text message that went out to players that, that happened. And then people got word about it and like, no, that never happened. Like, come on, guys. Be better about this. But so the process here, let's do this. You actually wrote it up. So go ahead and outline kind of what that process looked like in general, as far as what they're debating or what they're kind of trying to come to grips with as far as some general stuff. I'll kind of throw these ones out here. It was a 72 or a 76 game season, which is different from the 70 that we originally heard proposed, which I guess we can just kind of tackle that one real quick. That, at least for me, that gives Portland a little bit more room either way, 72 or 76. Right now they're 3.5 behind Memphis. They would only have 4 games to catch them. If it went to 6 or even 10 games. So that would be the option, 6 or 10.
Yeah.
That's a little more, especially 10 games. If it went to 10 games, 3.5 is not impossible. It's not easy, but that's certainly, you could talk yourself into that with the return of Jusuf Nurkic, possibly the return of Zach Collins. We haven't got an official statement about his status, his health, anything like that. What is your take on the 72-76 proposal?
Well, also you left off Carmelo Anthony. He's proven he's the ultimate come off the couch, ready to play player this year. Come on now. But
this is true.
But I think you're looking at that season length. I think you're looking at another question that was on there is how many teams. Everybody's assuming that every team is going to be returning, but that was another question that was on there. Between 18 to 24 teams, there was a window in there and how many teams they would bring back. Obviously, if they're going to bring every team back, you're already doing that, so you might as well make it worth it for the teams that are right on the bubble to give them enough games to play their way in. Don't bring them down there and give them zero margin for error to catch up in the playoff race. If that's what you're going to do, if you're going to commit them to that. And then also, the things that seem unanimous is the warm up to the league. It sounds like it'll be 2 weeks of practice in Portland or in the team's local market, and then they'll have a 2-week ramp up once they get in Orlando.
It's basically hey, here's the flare going up the sky. That's the message to all the players right now. Start getting ready. Like, you've got basically a month now to get your body right before you got to get back into full shape. Like, because there's plenty of guys right now, and this may surprise some folks, that the day the season ended, basically, or shut down, they went into full off-season mode. And so there are plenty of guys around the league who need to get right before they can get into basketball shape again.
And it's like when you're looking at it like that, you might look at teams that have guys like Jusuf Nurkic or Zach Collins where they're nearing the end of their injury rehabilitation, where they're already on a schedule. So those guys,
they never stopped.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and that may be something that people don't know, is that even when the season was shut down, Nurk, Hood, and Collins were still going to the practice facility. They were actually cleared, and I believe that was a league-wide thing where if you were under a injury protocol, they were just letting the guys in one at a time and basically like working one-on-one with or supervised by one of the trainers or medical staff. So those guys have been working out throughout this. So, if anything, they're probably in a better place. Everybody but Hood, but that's kind of the deal here. And it'll be interesting to see if a potential Ray Felton appears anywhere around the league.
Well, yeah, there's going to be, the Sean Kemps or the Ray Feltons of the world that have enjoyed quarantine a little too much.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of interesting things in that GM survey as far as and it's something that's talked about all the time as far as the potential conclusion dates. And right now,
this is a wide range.
Yeah, according to the GM survey, those dates range from September 7th to November 1st. And I think if you're looking at November 1st, I think you're probably looking at a league that's going to permanently shift its schedule.
100%. It'll be a week before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be the preview special will be like December 20th, and then like to get a couple marquee games, and then Christmas Day will be the major. You'll have like one semi-marquee game, kind of like the NFL does it. You'll have that one like marquee-ish game to open the season, and then Christmas Day you'll have 5-6 full slate of just what should be on paper monster matchups, and then that'll be kind of how they roll it out, at least in my mind.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a permanent shift like that. I think going forward, I think it's something the league has always wanted to do is, really clear themselves from the footprint or the shadow of the NFL and really just get in that sweet spot as far as that. And then really just try to capitalize on, a softer baseball schedule in the summer. So
how if you had to put a percentage on it, how likely do you think they are going to go to around Christmas start?
I would say I'm probably about 75% on that.
That's kind of where I'm saying too.
The other thing too is they're talking about for this year, depending on what playoff options they roll with, they're talking about potentially something the league has flirted with in the past or in the last couple of years as far as reseeding all the playoff teams. And obviously it's much less of an issue if you're at a central location to reseed everyone because East-West doesn't really matter at that point. So that's something that would be super interesting. And I mean, I think we both agree that this season, if there is a champion and everything goes and the schedule plays out, this is going to have an asterisk attached to it. So
I think yes and no. It depends on if the playoff format is a full 7-7-7. Like if it's a full, and especially if they get to 76 games, at that point you're like, I mean, we're already past a strike shortened season as far as like length of season. So it's hard for me to do that in one sense, but I get where some people are coming from. The thing about it is, this is my toss up. A team like the Lakers, who, they were certainly a title contender, they're old as hell. Mm-hmm. How easy is it going to be for them to get out of complete stoppage to get going? And we had Keith on from Bats Big Breakfast. They're Memphis guys. That Memphis team's like 21 years old. They wake up ready. Yeah. Like, let's say Memphis does make it in, Portland doesn't. And Memphis is just geared up, ready to go, and somehow, some way, they get the Lakers. Like, I'm not saying it's happening. I say it's a near impossibility. But like, what if that were the case? You'd have people screaming for asterisks then.
Yeah. Well, I think the counter to that is you have a Lakers team that is filled with grown men who have been preparing themselves for professional play their entire lives, or the last 10 years. So, I mean, if there's guys that know where their body needs to be before that type of competition, it's probably a team like the Lakers. The team I wonder about is kind of the Bucks, as far as that was a team that was rolling. Yeah. And then you just stall it out. And it'll be interesting to see how that team starts up again. And then obviously if it's some weird play-in situation where you're going to make everybody eligible, you got to talk about Golden State as far as that goes.
Steph and Clay both being back would be that's kind of a problem. Let's talk about the play-in format, because that obviously impacts Portland. There's a couple different versions of this. The toss it all up and let it roll, which we kind of saw Nurk talk about on Twitter the other night, see what happens. Or what was it? Like a bubble plan for the 7th and 8th seeds. So, I mean, it feels like this one is a hard split on where people fall. The NCAA tournament style, just like full on, let's go. And which it would be must see. Like if you watched, did you watch any of the match today?
I watched the first 9 holes, and then I've been assembling a playhouse for my daughter that has consumed all of my weekend time.
That'll happen. But the uniqueness of that, and how we probably won't ever see anything like that, or we hadn't really seen anything like that. I know they tried that pay-per-view one in Vegas, but this was different, right? Like the way they went about everything. I think if they did a play-in style tournament just this once, it would be a once in a lifetime type holy crap situation.
Mhm.
Like would have the opportunity to just completely destroy everything as far as like what expectations are, because basketball, I think a lot like hockey. Well, hockey's kind of a bad example too, because you can get a hot goalie. Basketball is, how often do we get a real upset? Like a no BS absolute upset. Over 7 games, the better team wins.
Yep.
It's just how it goes. But in a 1-game format, quite literally anything can happen. And I think the idea and the allure of that would be insane, right?
Yep. And that's why I think, I don't think you should open up the entire league to that, but like I'm more into the bubble style, because if there's teams on the playoff bubble,
Yeah,
there's
so like top 10.
so many uses of bubble now. But I think for me it's like, I mean, Damian Lillard is the captain of clutch right now, and it would just be awesome to see him play in that type of situation, especially against the teams that are right around that Western Conference playoff bubble.
The NCAA tournament run, clutch factor taking over. Was it Kemba at UConn when he went nuts? Steph at Davidson. Like, you could have him. Like, just imagine if what we saw from Dame in January. What if Nuclear Dame came back? Like, that's legit. Like, you have Nurk healthy, and you've got real big bodies. Let's say Nurk and Zach are back, and you get Nuclear Dame. You could talk yourself into a Western Conference Finals run, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a lot to get those guys going on the fly, but
I'm just saying, like,
from a talent level, you probably have a team that is more talented than the team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year. I mean, it's tough without Hood, but
it is. And we're talking pie in the sky, but like we've seen from Damian Lillard, I've gotten to the point where I've stopped and like, I don't know if he's going to be this, that, or the other. I'm just like, the dude can do anything. Like, if you say Damian Lillard is a top 5 player in the NBA, I'm not gonna look sideways at you. I'm just gonna go, yeah, I get it. I've got him like 7 or 8, but sure, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm at that level with him, and he's the kind of guy where he can legitimately just take over a 6-week stretch where he averages, 40, 10, and 5.
Yeah.
Not a night, not a week, not 2 weeks, a month and a half of just absolute superlative laden, just disaster on opponents. And who's to say that they're a young kid like Zion? When this all stopped, he was what, 26 and 17?
Yeah, he's just hitting his stride.
Like, nobody had solved that riddle yet. Like, who's to say that a young team like that with him, BI, Giroux couldn't just all of a sudden get dumb hot and make something happen?
Yeah, I think I'm going to look more towards the veteran teams with this,
sure.
just because
there's no fun in that.
Yeah, but like you said, there are those young teams. I mean, even a team like Dallas with some of the young pieces they have there, and Luka is used to different playoff formats and different playing styles.
Yeah.
So I think that's a team that would be very interesting to watch when this all gets rolling.
So I think the one thing we're looking at this here right now, at least as it pertains to Portland, is they're not done. Because they're so close, because they're only 3.5 back, the likelihood of them being one of the teams included in this, because number one, they're a small market team. And Jody Allen is not, and this isn't like scare anybody, she's not Paul Allen. And the pockets are a little bit different. So they probably want to try to recoup as much money as they can, right? When you look at that. And you're talking about TV deals and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I'm employed by NBC Sports Northwest, and there's your disclaimer. I want to get back to work too. But there's responsibilities to the RSNs. There's responsibilities to sponsors for both the league and in local markets. Like, they want to find ways to recoup that. And I don't see Portland as a team that would willingly accept the whole, yeah, you're not coming to Orlando or you're not coming to Vegas, right?
Yeah, if the league's starting up, they're going to push for it, probably as one of the hardest teams is going to push for it, and then also pushing for a schedule that allows them to make up ground in the playoff race.
Yeah, that 10-game format would be optimal for them, right? I mean, give them a few games to kind of get ramped up. You get to see what you get in Nurk. I mean, maybe same with Zach. And then, I mean, you're healthier than you've been pretty much at any point in the season, which is kind of crazy to think about, really. But I mean, bottom line, you've got basketball returning. Portland is likely involved. Jusuf Nurkic is, again, barring just ridiculous thing happening, is playing. And I still don't know what to make of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, I think that too. And I think just from a next season standpoint, and granted now we don't know what the cap numbers are going to look like, but there's a lot from this stretch right here, even if it doesn't involve the playoffs, even if it involves 10 games, there's a lot here that Portland can learn from as far as if Nurk is healthy, what does it look like when Jusuf Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside are healthy at the same time? And not necessarily on the court at the same time. Like that would be
you knew immediately where I was going. Like, oh,
I'm very outspoken along with you as far as how I think that would play out.
Yeah,
but I think you're going to get to see, money where people's mouths are. Can people accept a smaller role? And then also, it's basically the same thing for Carmelo. Is what would Carmelo look like if he's playing less of a role, or God forbid Zach Collins is starting in front of him. Now, granted, that's a stretch because I'm not as optimistic about Zach being back and ready to go. But and then also you just got to kind of see, what Trevor Ariza looks like after a stop and a start, because now all of a sudden potentially looking at a different cap situation and something that Nate talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly that $10 million looks a lot different than being able to cut bait and get out at $2 million.
Yeah, that's $2 million could be a huge.
Yeah.
Like, let's not get too much into the nitty gritty right now, but like the whole idea of the salary cap, and we've alerted to this over the last couple of weeks, the impact that this could have on Portland, particularly because of where they are with salary commitments, because Dame's tied to the cap and CJ McCollum is not, could be massive. And then you're talking about filling out the rest of the roster still with decisions to make, or a decision to make on Zach Collins on what you want to do there. And the number now for what it could be for Hassan Whiteside and the return of Carmelo Anthony, or does he go to New York? Rodney Hood's return. Like, there are so many things that are happening for Portland, particularly that probably most, if not no other team in the league is going to experience, because they're in that in-between spot and they have so many financial questions. Like, you look at a team like Golden State, they're under wraps. Like, everybody's taken care of. Like, they're looking at drafting like James Wiseman or, Anthony Edwards. That's their choice. Like that, and they're stumbling into another one of those picks. Like, it's ridiculous how well it's worked out for them. You look at every other team that's supposedly upper echelon. The Bucks, they're taken care of. They still have got Giannis for another year. Middleton's deal is taken care of. Bledsoe's deal is taken care of. The Mavericks, they're going to have a nice cap situation when everything kind of unfolds. They've still got Luka for 2 more years. The Hawks, I mean, you look at all these teams, the Pelicans, all of these teams that are either the up and coming, like on the upward trajectory, or title contending. The Celtics, they've got everybody on the books. Their contracts are already taken care of. The 76ers, I mean, you name every competitive team right now, they're all taken care of.
I mean, I'd add the Lakers to that list too, as well. I mean, before they commit the money to Anthony Davis, but I mean, getting back just Blazers focus. I mean, granted, I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty, but like the big argument for the Hassan Whiteside re-signing is you have his bird rights, you have to use them because that's how you protect the asset. But just dumping $15 million into a questionable fit at center, and $15 million might be optimistic per year. You don't know what Hassan expects on the open market, and we don't know what that open market's going to be. But now it gets more into, can you, in this new reality where they could be well over the luxury cap,
they could be legitimately hitting the hard cap.
Yeah. And can you just re-sign somebody to re-sign someone to preserve an asset? Like, I don't know if that's going to be a reality the Blazers are going to be living in.
Yeah, that flexibility or the willingness to be able to do something just because it's what's roster-wise prudent may not actually be financially applicable
or possible.
That's a scary thing to consider. Like, what you need to be doing, you literally cannot do, and it's not a fact of like you've got a cheap owner. It's forbidden by the CBA. Yeah. Like that's the kind of territory that they're approaching. That's how tight things could be.
I would assume that the union and the league are going to work closely on caps moving and all that to make this not just absolutely devastating, but still, like, these are all unknowns as of right now.
Speaking of unknowns, let's get to everybody's favorite part of this, the draft.
Oh,
You posted your big board today, and I've been following. Well, I mean, not just you, but I mean everybody as far as where they are. And the one thing that everybody knows is that nobody knows a damn thing.
I mean, this is reason. Like, I had every intention of having a 50-player big board from the start, but I don't think I have spent more time on the top 5 players and trying to order them than in any other ever since I've been doing draft analysis. Like, these guys, it is really just a pick your poison, eye of the beholder type situation. The one thing I do know, and I've talked to you about this, is guaranteed there's someone, maybe 2 guys in the top 5 that are going to get executives fired, because there are guys that could flame out in spectacular
Mellow.
Well, that's the main one that I'm thinking of. But
the thing is, I'm not poo-pooing this draft. There are plenty of good players, but the fact is, you are always going to be tied to your draft position. That's just the reality of it, whether you want to accept that or not. That is what makes executives look good. Like, you want to talk about Neil Olshey's resume. What makes Neil Olshey look good all the time is that he drafted Damian Lillard when other teams passed on him. He drafted CJ McCollum when other teams passed on him. He drafted Alan Crabb in the second round. And listen, I get it. It's Alan Crabb, the contract. For a second round pick, that's good. Pat Connaughton, good. You just go down the list. He's done well with just about every asset he was given and made it come due. Gary Trent Jr. is another one. I would say Anthony Simons has the potential to be another one of those guys.
Well, and Nasir Little is
Nas.
Early right now, but yeah.
I mean, again, Nas was a guy the players had much higher on their board than where they picked him. That's how I'll caveat that. So when he was there, they were going to go another way. And then when they saw he was still available, they're like, we have this guy like a lot higher on our board. Let's go ahead and draft him. Let's see what we can find in him. And in that, the Blazers have done B+, I think A- draft work over the entirety of Olshey's time in Portland. There's been a couple where I've been like, I don't know about that. And again, not necessarily the player, but just where they were picked. And so,
or the player that was picked directly after that player.
Yeah, no, nothing along those lines whatsoever. But this is where Portland has built their franchise.
I mean, to put this in perspective, like, and I say this is really hard to pick a top guy. It doesn't mean that I don't like this draft. If I'm picking number 1, I don't like this draft. If I'm picking number 4 or 5, I love this draft because most likely someone has made a mistake
in front of you,
and someone is going to fall to me.
Just pray the Kings are in front of you because they'll always make it for you.
But also there's a range between 6 to 12 that I really like, and that I think there's probably a player in there that could very easily end up where Portland could be picking. And that is very interesting with this draft class. But as far as picking like a top tier blue chip guy, like, there's just not a guy you can say, I'm going to take this guy and he's going to be 8 all-stars, no matter what, lock.
He's going to play for Terry Stotts right now.
Yeah.
Like that's the bar we really need to look at, because how many guys do you look at right now and be like, Terry Stotts would play him as a rookie if everybody's healthy, and that list goes whoop real quick.
It gets real small in a real hurry.
So let's talk about draft range real quick. We were talking about this beforehand. The way things shape out with records, if you're talking about 10 games, like the highest, lowest, like we're not doing this mathematically as like if they went 0-10 or 10-0 and then every permutation of every team. Realistically is between 10 and 16. 10 at the best, quote unquote, best draft position, meaning the Blazers did the worst they could do there. 16 being the worst draft position and the best they could do during the season and getting into the playoffs. Who are the guys, first of all, we'll talk about fit next. Who are the guys that you were looking at that are going to be available for Portland between 10 and 16?
I think you're going to have, I think for Portland, obviously you're looking at wing positions and forwards. And because the backcourt's basically set, you have too many big guys right now if everybody's healthy. So I think You have a sharpshooter and Aaron Naismith that could fall, but it seems like some evaluators just really love him. He is a Vanderbilt guy. He played a short amount this season. He had
How many games
a
did he
foot
get?
injury.
Was it 13
I think
before
he
he went
made it.
down?
I think he only made it 1 or 2 games inside SEC play.
So yeah, about like 10, 12 games.
So, but I mean, unbelievable 3-point shooter. And then the other guy that I really am interested in for Portland is Saddiq Bey. And he is a Villanova guy. And when you talk about a list of guys that could play for Terry Stotts as a rookie, I think he is a guy that kind of fits that mold. He's shown that he can blend into a team system in Villanova as a freshman, and then he can carry more of a load as he did in his second year. The thing about him too, though, is he's so effective without the ball. Like you do not need to run a play to him. And that's something that is super valuable, especially if the Blazers are looking for a plug and play option. Now, granted, the Blazers really haven't gone that way. Like it's hard to really judge, like you said, with how little fell to them, but O'Shea tends to just really swing for the fences here. But, the reality of the free agency landscape and what the cap is available to them.
The wings are trash.
You could really look to go and get a rookie that could give you 10 minutes a night. And that could be a game changer for a team that's, looking to be much more competitive than they currently sit right now.
Yeah. And we still don't know. And I've off the record, I've heard from Hood that, that he thinks he'll be ready to go here by late August, but you don't know. It's an Achilles. You don't know what he's going to be. So you need to have Hood insurance. And that's not just 35-year-old Trevor Ariza. And that's not second-year Nasir Little. Like, you need to have some viable options. Like, heaven forbid something else happens to another wing. Like, we saw what Ariza did and how valuable it was to get, like, baseline serviceable level production. Everybody was losing their minds. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, we're getting 12 and 5 from a small forward on a nightly basis. And that was like earth shattering. It was like, yeah, guys, that's what small forward production actually looks like.
Yeah. But really, as far as range goes, I think with this draft and how teams might be looking at it, depending on how hot and cold they are, the Blazers with a second round pick this year, actually, they have probably the ammunition and some future assets to move up slightly if they really love a guy, probably at 7 or 8 even. I really think they could draft anywhere between 7 and 20. Like, any guy that falls in there, I think, is right in their wheelhouse.
And O'Shea has shown that if there's somebody there that he likes, he'll go up and get him. I mean, they actually everybody knows that they obviously they traded up to get Collins. What people might not know is that they tried to trade up even higher to get that Collins.
Yeah. So
just keep that in mind when you're talking about what the Blazers are or aren't willing to do when it comes to getting their guy. I mean, Anthony Simons had a guarantee from a team, and the Blazers had to make sure that they got him when they did. Yeah. So the Blazers if you're talking about them and their guys and who they're targeting, they will do what they think is necessary to go get said player, unless something radical changes, like we saw last draft with Nasir Little. Mm-hmm. So we're talking anywhere between, you said 7 and 20, but I'm going to try to narrow it down so you don't have to give the whole board here. between 10 and 16. You had Bay, you had Nesmith. Who do you think? Let's throw out. Let's keep it in the range. Who is the absolute best fit for? You know what? Let's take the range off entirely. Who is the best fit for this team in the draft?
I mean, if it was me choosing, I would do what I had to do to get Isaac Okoro on this team. As far as what he could bring defensively, and you have a guy that you could throw out there at any time, and yes, his offense is not where it needs to be for an NBA player right now, but he is a guy who will go out and at least pester a guy as a rookie, and we're talking top-level wing players, and potentially just completely stifle somebody. And I think if you're looking at what you want to do at this point in the draft and with this team, how it's built right now, to bring in a guy who definitely would fit a specific role, he's that guy, and that's what I look to. Now, if you're going to look for like swing for the fences upside, like there's guys that could fall to them at 14 that I'm not necessarily hot on, but they just kind of have those characteristics that I see O'Shea looking at, and that's like, yes, he's a guard, but RJ Hampton is an interesting guy who is going to slide way down draft boards.
Because
But
he played awful in Australia.
he was terrible in Australia, but he, leading up into his pro career in Australia, he had all the
He had top three
Yeah,
pick slated for him.
Exactly. So is he going to be a guy like Cliff Alexander, or, is he going to be a guy who recovers?
God, you went Cliff Alexander. That's rough.
Well, I mean, he would have been number 2 pick if he went out straight out of high school. So
it's crazy when you think about it like that. But okay, so we've got wing. There's almost no chance Portland doesn't go with a wing here, right? Like the only way that changes is if we're talking like massive deal. Portland, I know I'm going to say it again, deals McCollum and somehow gets like a top pick attached with somebody else. I don't think they would do that, and particularly in this draft. Next draft they do that.
Yeah.
But they're not going guard, right?
I don't foresee it. And like if they do go guard, I guess if I was picking from anybody in this class, I think it would probably be, Tyrese Halliburton, as far as what it would look like next to Dame in the backcourt, as far as a 7-foot wingspan, a guy who can create as a primary ball handler, but also is one of the deadliest catch and shoot guards in college basketball last year. So,
which I hear that's actually a pretty good thing to have alongside Damian Lillard.
That is a super useful trait in the NBA. So
weird, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in your mind, you're Neil Olshey, you're going into the draft. What is your plan of attack? What are you looking to do? I'm giving you full control of the franchise. You can deal primary players, you can deal bench players, you can move up, you can move back. What is your dream scenario for after this season plays out? What does Portland do up to the draft? We're not talking free agency. We'll just go to the draft.
I think you probably have to trim some of the salary, obviously. I think just with how everything's going to be set up. So that's going to make me look at players who have a proven track record, who have at least some skills that you could see on the court playing out as a rookie. And so those are your guys like Obi Toppin, who can play, he can carry a team, he can play multiple positions, or defensively guard multiple positions, or showed willingness to do that. And offensively, he can fill a few different roles. Like I said, I've already talked about Okoro. He's a guy who can come in and play defense right away. The guys I'm staying away from are kind of the Cole Anthonys, LaMelo Ball types, like where it's just
it does hurt me a little bit for you to lump Cole with LaMelo, just so you know that.
Well, I certainly I don't know. UNC is so hard. It's where top 5 prospects go to die recently.
It is, and I think Cole has at least a little bit more of an excuse.
Yeah.
As far as what he was surrounded with.
Well, LaMelo's been in a less than ideal situation since his early teenage years. So
that we can agree on.
But I think I'm really looking for those guys you can feasibly see come in and play and contribute to Damian Lillard's prime. Now, do I believe that's what Olshey will do? I'm not necessarily sure. I think Neil Olshey is going to take the best value at that position regardless of fit, and he's going to make the best deal that has the potential to make, just add to that resume he has of finding these guys at whatever draft slot he's in.
Do you think there's any chance that Portland deals out of this draft entirely?
I just don't think so, just because how free agency is probably going to look. I think this is the best way on a controlled contract to get a guy at a talent level for the money that it's going to cost.
That's kind of where I'm sitting too. And that's the reason I wanted to ask that, is because this draft is looked at as not great, quote unquote, right? But if we know the salary cap is going to take a hit, how much more valuable do draft picks in this draft before the cap gets strapped back down, and having 4 years of controlled contracts, how much more valuable does that make a lottery pick?
Well, and then also too, you have to play into that logic of, if this is perceived to be a weak class, you probably have more value. You're not going to have a lot of value with a pick on the trade market. So you might as well trust. And like, if there's one thing that Portland has shown that you can trust in, is their ability to evaluate the prospects in their draft range and pick the guy who is going to contribute. It might not be right away, but within a couple of years, you're going to probably end up with a contributor out of this draft, that draft position.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to go back to the return of basketball. I'm going to give you the 10 games. Do the Blazers make the playoffs in a resumed season where they get 10 games? 3.5 back from Memphis. We don't know what the schedule will look like because we don't know if every team will be in. But the likelihood is they probably play Memphis twice.
I trust Damian Lillard, and you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are two professionals that do their job very well. You have Damian Lillard, who thrives. It's easy to see him thriving in that type of situation. And then also you have Jusuf Nurkic, who was denied his return, and he is hungry to play. And from everything we've seen, from how he looks, granted, this is just, you're judging by social media and whatever workout video we see, but he looks like he's in excellent shape. He looks like he's confident, and he looks like he has a few more wrinkles in his game now that I think would be very interesting. And he has a lot to prove. And this is a guy who's, watched another very high paid center fill his position all year. And now he's ready to get back and get to work.
And I will add this to Nurk. He looks lighter, or he looked lighter, I should say, when the season was ending. And his shot looked nice. It's no secret. I have my love lust for Nurk and his game. But there was a very sneaky way of you not giving an answer.
Oh, what I'm getting at is I like those three factors. And like I said, I was half joking, but Carmelo has shown that he can come off the couch and come in.
No, that's a real thing.
And so
how many guys in the league, I'm going to derail you real quick. How many guys in the league do you think can actually do that?
Probably
legitimately come off the couch and start.
It's a very short list.
At 34.
I still think in the back of my mind, Tony Allen is somewhere that could come into the league.
Oh, he's ready. TA's ready. He will lock somebody down for 10 minutes. TA will get out there and get after it. He's definitely on that list.
But back on track, I do like their chances of getting into the playoff format with this team, how it is.
The restart, I think, and obviously the 2 to 3 months off when it's all said and done, probably closer to 4. And getting Nurk back, it's not just Nurk's contribution, because he's going to play 15 minutes. They're going to follow the same plan they had. He's going to play 15 minutes, and they're going to see how he feels. And then maybe a week later, they ramp him up to 18, and they give him a 20-minute cap. But he's not playing a ton of minutes. More importantly, he's their talisman. He is their as much as Dame is their leader, their spirit animal is Jusuf Nurkic.
Yeah,
he is that dude for them. And I will tell you this: the first play they run when they come back, when Jusuf Nurkic's on the floor, I guarantee it will be a Dame Nurk pick and roll. I am willing to bet a significant amount of money that will be what happens.
And I think more. It's not necessarily Nurk I can see that, but I think it's the relationship that Nurk and Dame have is really just drives so much of the energy for this team.
Yeah.
But then outside of Nurk's return, I think the other thing we got to think about is this is another 3 months that Trevor Ariza has had the playbook and had the coaching from the Blazers.
He's basically a full year in.
And you got Carmelo Anthony who's in the same boat. And, some of these other young guys might be ready to go too. You have all this time with film and playbook and focusing that they could really pay dividends here.
You just got to perk up right. Ant could get back on track.
And I think if there's any player who really wants to come and change the narrative on how things went this season and has the talent level to do that in a big way, it's Ant. He has every physical tool. It's clear that he was not very happy with how some things were going, and he is a guy who has every skill to get hot and really change the narrative on how some of the season went.
Yeah, and Ant will be 21 in a month. for everybody wondering, just,
And he'll be playing in his home state. He'll be right there in Orlando.
not even just home state, the home city. Like he probably stays at his parents' house in Orlando.
Yeah.
He's probably in the bubble. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that could go here, right? Like the different, we talk about obviously the top level narratives, Nurk's return, Damian Lillard, Carmelo being that guy, getting other guys more familiar, but we kind of forget sometimes. Here's the downside. What if Gary Trent Jr. isn't as hot as he was?
I don't know.
I don't think that'll happen.
His jump shot's surgical.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing hot and cold about his game. Like it's that you're getting the same thing every game, every shot. Like that thing is the same.
I don't know if you know this, Steve, but I think he's going to be around in the league for at least 10 years.
Yeah, I think I might have heard that before on a podcast.
So, I mean, we'll hit on this some more over the next couple of weeks, but I just kind of wanted to get some like initial thoughts out there, and the whole idea of like who, what, when, where, why, what's going on with the season, what will happen, what could happen. Like we're just starting to get our first answers. The one thing that we know right now, barring COVID-19 just getting rampant again, is that basketball is back. It's going to come back. It's not inevitable, but it's as close as you could probably get right now. That's kind of where at least I'm sitting. Are you sitting in the same place?
I think so too. And like I said earlier, I think this league needs to continually evolve how they're going to monitor the safety for their most vulnerable people that are going to be involved in this.
I wanted to tack this on, but it feels tacky, I guess, weird to say after we're talking about safety. But I wanted to ask you this. Do you think that this is the time for the league to try some wild stuff?
Absolutely. I
like,
mean, as long as wild equals like, as long as it's in the realm of safety, but like, I think now is the time to be innovative because this season is already, so much different than what we're used to. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to try. Now, obviously you don't want to just pile on some stuff, but like, as far as fan experience, now is the time to experiment because there is not going to be
the players.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that they don't want the coarse language, but ESPN just dropped F-bomb after F-bomb on the Last Dance.
Well, even today watching the golf, when they drop out the audio, I'm like, no, I want the audio.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, let me hear this. We had Justin Thomas say to Chuck, I'd love to see your fat ass dunk a ball right now. And I was like, oh, we're bringing trash talk back. Okay, let's do this.
Well, I think it was right before Brady hit like his only good shot of the day.
Yeah. Listen, I hate the man, but he hold that. Good Lord.
Yeah. And I mean, trust me, nobody loved to watch Tom Brady struggle more than this guy right here.
Especially in Florida as a Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a few stinkers in that state. So, but he gets in this back and forth with Chuck, and then it just drops the audio for like 5 seconds. And I'm like, oh man.
Listen, and we keep things pretty PG around here, and that's on purpose so everybody can enjoy it, kids and everything else. I get a little loose every now and then, but I have FCC standards I have to keep on TV for the most part. Actually, I don't. That's what people don't know is that it's cable, and I can say whatever I want, but my network executives get a little mad if that happens. I have yet to do it, though, so I've gotten close once, really close. But yeah, no, I don't want to just hear profanity for profanity's sake. I want to hear the trash talk, but more importantly, I want to hear the calls. I want to hear who's talking, why they're talking, what are they talking about, what that communication sounds like. I want to hear the huddle. Like for everybody that knows, like, or everybody that doesn't know, when they mic the coaches, that stuff goes through so many filters, and there's only so many things that they're legally allowed contractually to share. Like the closest cool thing we've ever gotten was Greg Popovich's "I Want Some Nasty." That's not true. And Stan Van Gundy's "Form a Bleeping Wall." Those are the two things. And I think the Van Gundy one we accidentally got from the on-court cameras and not the huddle one. But I mean, how great would that be to actually get that stuff? It's not like it's state secret.
Well, I mean, if you're going to summer league, you're getting a lot of this, especially on the court, and depending on where you sit, you're going to get a lot from the huddle too. And I mean, these are guys just entering the league. and it's already interesting. I can only imagine, what it's going to be like when you, for instance, hear what Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook are saying to each other for a full game, or you have guys that have a history with each other.
CJ McCollum and Evan Fournier.
Yeah. I mean, probably the most scared I've been in my adult life was at Summer League. And the person like 2 rows behind me said some very nasty things to Marquise Chris. And Marquise Chris turned
and thought it looked like
I said it. And I was like, no, not me. So,
you're turned into a snitch real quick, huh?
Yeah, and I heard every word that was landed on me intended for that guy, and it was not pleasant. So I can only imagine how exciting it would be in a playoff pressure situation.
It's kind of funny that you remember a son doing that, because the trash talk that I remember most from Summer League, and we'll kind of get out of here on this. You know where I'm going with this, right?
I think so.
Devin Booker,
yeah,
Luis Montero.
Poor Luis.
He dropped 18 straight on him after that?
It was,
and he not only did he cook him on the floor, he verbally assaulted that man for like 10 straight minutes. And it was, I was courtside for that game. If anybody ever had, for whatever reason, has the Summer League tape from 2016, you will see the look on my face of for 5 straight minutes as Devin Booker cooked the living crap out of Luis Montero on possession after possession and talked more junk than anybody not named Gary Payton.
Yeah.
It was, I hate to see it happen to a Blazer, but it was mwah. I mean, and I know so many people who would be willingly pay so much money to get that insight and have that feeling of sitting right there. And I get why the league doesn't want to do it with the whole image thing. But if anything has shown over the last couple of weeks during quarantine, people want real. They want the raw. They want every bit of that.
Well, I think there's always going to be. I think you cater the main product to the entire fan base. Yeah. But I mean, let's face it. There's guys in this who, I mean, probably me and you, we came up and we loved those Allen Iverson teams, those 96 to 2004, like the swagger that those teams carried. I mean, that was my bread and butter. So like, I'm interested in that, like, obviously, and I don't think I'm alone with that.
No,
so
I think the staggering majority of fans around our age would certainly be interested in that. And I'd be willing to bet that demographic's a lot larger. We'll get out of here on that. Steve, what are you working on right now, man?
Well, Big Board is eventually I'm going to get to 50 players, but I think the next kind of series I'll be working on, as it looks more and more like that we're going to have basketball here in the next couple of months, is probably those looming questions that are waiting for the Blazers once play resumes.
Once we understand who, what, when, where, why, and the way they're going to be. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. That's allowed. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, man.
You can follow me on Twitter at Steve D Hoops, and I am on Blazers Edge more often than not most days.
More often than not is the correct answer, because he ends up having to edit my stuff when I write, which has been a really long time now.
Yeah, you're going easy on me.
Yeah, I know, but I actually am working on something right now. So I guess I'll tease that. I'm looking at a little breakdown, positional breakdown, and how size and scoring is differentiated. I did something like this probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was okay done, but I've got a little bit more insight as to how to better do that now. So I'll slowly but surely work on that as we get ramped up for the season. As always, you can find me on social media at Danny Marang, at DANNYMARANG. And, well, if Blazers basketball resumes, I'm still contractually obligated and thrilled to do basketball for NBC Sports Northwest on Blazers Outsider. So following every game, Joe Simmons and I will be there. And I'm assuming Steve's kids will be too.
Yeah, yep. She is ready for bed.
Which is why I wanted to wrap this up real quick. I mean, it's not a Zoom quarantine call without a puppy, a child, or somebody else walking into the frame. So
she is very amped about her playhouse. So she is crashing and burning rapidly after a day outside.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining us. We'll probably have you back on as we're progressing through candidates here for the co-host slot. But yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, because I haven't actually put that little anecdote out there. That stuff matters. So please do that. And we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.